I gotta be honest, that boobies joke was pretty funny in episode 10, because usually when you have like very large chested anime characters who they're barely keeping it in the top to begin with, they don't really acknowledge it, they just say, it's anime, we're just gonna accept it. But having Wayne like literally just hone in on that the first time he steps in, because how could you not? It's literally like triple D's popping out in front of him, and he's just going overboard with horny nature. I mean, it was just so hilarious to just break the tension in such a comedic and childish way. And if there's any character who was going to say what we were all thinking, it would be Wayne himself. Now, as you can see, we're going to be doing a double review. Usually I would record the episode 10 and 11 together, but for time reasons, I'm recording these in two separate videos and obviously connecting them here. So if you want to skip to just episode 11 or you just want to watch episode 10, obviously the timestamps are in the description embedded in the video, and you can do what you want. Overall, this episode was just another political theater. It was Wayne showing off how good he is at manipulating the situation. Like I was thinking, I didn't think they would be able to kill the innocent civilians. I knew they wouldn't be able to like push away people who weren't up in arms. But it was really cool to see how he navigated a situation after marching the entire city to basically their front door, as you have one of the most evil sisters in recent anime memory. How are they going to navigate around this, especially when you have the different brothers trying to, well, become king, overthrow everyone, while simultaneously dealing with all the shit going on? And the idea of buying basically weapons and supplies, saying we're going to take up arms, we'll take it back ourselves, don't worry about this, as you simultaneously are pinning the blame on the eldest prince. Which it's so interesting because it's a very basic resolution, but it is so carefully thought out that if you were to deny either side of this, you're basically screwed. For this kind of like fatter king over here, he almost immediately accepts the proposal, thinking about the long-term effects of like, not only are we going to be making money in this moment, eventually they're going to be worn out and it will be our time to strike. When it comes to the other two princes, they realize like, okay, we know who was behind the poisoning, but how can you navigate a situation when you have three brothers and a sister competing for the throne, and ultimately you don't want to step on the other's toes before you know you can definitely pin them down? And the idea of pinning it on the eldest there, and how, if you were to go against his proposal here, the only one who's going to end up benefiting is the eldest. So you can't. So you have to kind of just go with the flow, even though things were kind of working out for them. And it was just really cool to see how they navigated a situation without much conflict, because once you have an entire armed civilian army kind of marching to your doorstep, there's not a whole lot you can do. And the interesting thing about changing the premise almost like towards the end of the first season is really cool, because the original plan for him was to sell off his kingdom and have a leisurely life. Now, that's no longer the plan. Now all he wants to do is milk in the profits for as long as possible and have the most fancy royalty life out there until shit eventually bites him in the ass. And then to see the whole marriage proposal and how he's like, okay, she's definitely going to want to marry me, and that's basically what she's being encouraged to do. And the fact that even though it ends in a pretty funny way with her talking about like, the face isn't really up to par with what she likes, ultimately there's like this level of respect that she doesn't feel worthy to be his wife. Even though, I kind of feel like had she actually brought it up, I'm kind of curious, would he have actually just immediately shot it down, or would he navigate it in different ways? Because we know where his heart lies, but the man's definitely he wasn't on top of his A game. He was being flustered by her not asking and all these other things, so be interesting to see. But I love the idea of why he's so paranoid of people, and he uses that example of going back how everyone's family started out as essentially a commoner. I'm now considered royalty. Everyone starts somewhere from essentially nothing. How could I not be on guard when anyone around me could end up being more powerful than me someday? It's such a brilliant way to showcase how like strategic yet cautious and paranoid his mind is, and how certain characters think of that as foolish and other characters, as seen here, think of it as amazing. And just overall, it was a great episode about political sabotage and everything like that. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with the second to last episode, which obviously I'm going to be transitioning into now. So yeah, see where it goes from here, I guess. So I gotta be real honest, this king threw me for a loop. I really thought, he was going to be a bad person who was going to cause trouble, but Wayne would smoke and really wouldn't be too much of a threat. To then getting equally confused, even though he seemed so suspicious with the sister in the previous episode, but to see his just kind of casual, carefree lifestyle of not really thinking things through to the point of seeming like a threat, almost like, oh, maybe the stuff we heard with him scheming and stuff, maybe that was him just kind of going with the flow. Maybe he is just kind of a casual, laid-back, fat king. And the fact that we had someone actually confront Wein, throw him for such a loop that he didn't realize that he was played until he got back home. And the fact that they made a verbal agreement, something that could easily be broke because the only parties who so-called heard said agreement is the two different leaders and someone of a race that people discriminate against, right? So essentially each side is going to believe the other in terms of their leaders, right? Nothing written, nothing formal, but to see the scheming of, like, he had so many assassination attempts. He could have poisoned food, he could have killed him in that night there, he could have had some trained guards. But the fact that everyone has their own thrills, that's kind of like the motto of this episode. And for him, the thrill of the hunt, the rare beast, Wein is one of the rarest of the beasts out there. And he's not going to poison him. He's not going to kill him in such an underhanded way. He's going to hunt him down by launching all-out war and destroying everything that he holds dear. Not going to lie, that's actually kind of badass. It's insane. It's like the man's twisted. But you can't deny, if Wein needed anyone to really throw him for a loop in the end stages of this anime with one episode to go, I'm honestly glad it's this king. I thought he was just going to be a drunken fool, and I mean, he had his level of intelligence in the previous episode for sure. I mean, he de-escalated the sister and saw a way to make maximum profit and attack him later. But he actually became a lot more strategic, and the fact that we saw Wein at such a dunce kind of point of view, I guess is how I'd put it. Like, he couldn't basically talk with him. Every time he did, he got distracted by the luxurious food. I mean, it just looked amazing, tastes amazing. How could something so simple be that delicious? And the fact that he actually got so thrown for a loop that it wasn't until he got home that he realized that he got played. Of course, he's not like sitting in a corner. He's going to attack back, and he probably will win. But the fact that he actually thought the king was just a normal guy with nothing up his sleeve by the time he left, that's pretty impressive given this man really doesn't get defeated by big political figures. He's the one who does the defeating. And honestly, that actually has me very impressed. I remember seeing a lot of people in the early days of this show saying, oh, I wish he got defeated more. But his defeats were typically like he kept getting more successful. But now the fact that he wants to be successful and then someone actually throws him down and makes him say uncle is actually kind of interesting. I really appreciate it. I mean, seriously, this was a very solid episode. I'm really glad I watched these two pretty close together, not in a weekly format here, because there's something so interesting getting that perspective and that level of like thinking you know where it's going to go, and then by the time he reaches home and he's talking with Nim, like, I just don't get it. Like, we weren't attacked on the way home, we weren't attacked there, what is his plan? And then it all kind of comes crumbling down. It was pretty damn fantastic. There's a level of like mystery, sabotage, and comfy that I just don't really remember experiencing this well in this show beforehand. Like when the daughter of the king was kind of introduced, I thought what was going to happen was he was going to rope him into like a marriage proposal or something like that. Instead, it became so much more interesting, and like there was so many things that you thought were going to be important and ended up just being simple distractions, which kind of just goes to show how good this fat king actually turned out to be. He may get carried around and have his own ways of living that luxurious life. Ultimately, though, every ruler has their own ways, right? But incredible stuff. I'm really excited to see how this is all going to wrap up in the last episode, but I guess we'll see where it goes from here. But thoughts either on the previous episode that I covered or this one down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. Until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.